Okay, we're going to work on getting your files that you scanned and sent to yourself organized. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to pull those files off of your email and using whatever operating system you're using, a Windows machine or a Mac or whatever. Just pull those files off of the pull them off of your email and put them in a folder. So I put my in a folder here. You can kind of see the order there. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go in here and rename all of these so that they are in the right order, and that's just a little easier for Photoshop to deal with. So you're going to want to go in here and just change all of these into like O1, O2, O3, and just make sure they're in the right order. They'll usually come off the scanner in the order that you put them in, so hopefully you scan them in the right order. But if you didn't, double check all of that and make sure that you get it all set up. So I'm just going to take just a second here and go through and change the names on all these, and then if I can do that, then I'll be able to start working in Photoshop on them. So we will work on that, and I'll come back in just a second and help you figure out the next step. Have all your files that are renamed and in the right order, so you just want to go in and find the folder and just double check them all to make sure that the things are moving correctly. Then we're going to want to go ahead and open up Photoshop. So go to your operating system. If you can't find it, you can always just go to the Finder. And if you open up the Finder on a Macintosh, it's a little different on a PC. And you go in here to Applications and just double click that. You'll find, all of your applications in alphabetical order. You can select the most recent version of Photoshop that you have. Just open up that folder and then double click it, and that'll open up Photoshop for you. So I'm going to just close these things out so that we can start from scratch on the whole thing. So what you want to do once you've opened up your Photoshop application is you want to go in here and go into this thing called Scripts. So you want to go to File, Scripts, and you want to go to the one that says Load Files into Stack. So it's kind of buried in here. You just go ahead and grab that, click on it, and it's going to bring up the dialog box that asks you which files do you want to load into the stack. So you click Browse, and then you just go into your Finder, and I put the folder on the desktop. But you can put it wherever you want, but remember your job is to keep your things organized so that you can find the things that you need to. So mine's in this folder here. You just want to click and shift click on all of them. So you want to have all 12 highlighted and selected, and click Open. And then just click OK, and make sure these boxes here are unchecked. You shouldn't need to mess around with that. Just click OK. And so now we're going to have they're all going to come into Photoshop, and they're all going to be kind of stacked from 1 to 12. And so the thing that you have to do now is kind of drag, but it helps a lot if you just go in here and reorder them. So I'm going to go in and start up at the top, and I want them to go 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, all the way down to 1. So you just have to take a few seconds to do all of that. Reorder them so that you can get them all in the right stack. And then once we do that, we'll be able to go in and slowly work our way through like tidying these Photoshop files up. So I'll come back in a second and show you how to do the next thing. So once you've brought all of your images into Photoshop and you stacked them in the right order, so 1 should be at the bottom here in the layers palette, and then it should go all the way up to 12 over here. So once you've done all of that, you should be able to go in now and correct these. And so what you'll want to do is just go along and just turn all of the eyeballs off on all of these layers. So if you have a layer, you can see it, you just want to go ahead and just go in there and and turn the eyeball off. So you're just working on one, and you can tell which layer you're working on by which one is highlighted in gray. So if it's highlighted in gray, go ahead and just, that's the one you're working on. And right here, I just have this little bit of a problem area. If I zoom in on it, you can see that I have some stuff I might want to delete out of here. And so there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that, but probably the easiest way that we can do it in this for right now is just to use the Magic Lasso tool. So it's that tool that's up there, looks kind of like a lasso, and let's just grab it. We're going to highlight everything, and so these are selection tools. So this is the rectangular marquee, this is the lasso tool, but you can just draw it, and it'll make this thing I call the dancing ants, where the ants are kind of like marching around this line, right? So anything we do now, like if I hit delete, it'll delete everything within that bounding box of the dancing ants. I'll hit Command Z or undo to fix that. But I want to delete all the stuff on the outside, right? I want to get rid of all the extra junk that's out there. So what I'm going to want to do now is I'm going to want to go over here and go to select, and then go select inverse, and I can just hit delete there. That'll get rid of everything that wasn't inside of my dancing ants, which is great. So now if I hit command deselect, or just go up here, go select deselect, or just hit command D, it'll deselect everything. Okay, and so now I can turn on the second layer, and if I want to check and see if things are like aligned, I can actually crank the opacity on my second layer down a little bit and see if I can get that to you know, just if I want to scooch it a little bit, I could actually grab this tool here, that's the move tool, and I could just move this layer around if I wanted to adjust it a little bit. I'm not going to do that here because I do these pretty precisely, but you can just scoot it around. You can also use the arrow tools to kind of move things a little bit if that helps. But once I get that done, I'm going to want to go ahead and go up here and just crank the opacity back up. Another way you could think about adjusting this would be to use this tool here. I'm just going to show you a lot of tools called the clone stamp tool. And what that does is wherever you can see that little kind of round dot, and I'll just make the brush bigger up here. If I click up here next to the toolbar, I can just make the size a little bit bigger. So I'm going to crank that up here so you can see a little bit more. And then the hardness is whether it has a hard or a soft edge. So it's kind of fuzzy on the edge. I like the fuzzy edge. So if I click here now, it's not going to know what to do because it doesn't have anything that I've told it to clone. So you can see it's going to say use option click to define source point. So now if I hit option on the keyboard and click here, now it's going to copy whatever was up there and just I can use that to get rid of any little like problem areas that I have here. Anything that I want to clean up, I could do that way. So if you want to leave your white background, that's another way to do it as opposed to the eraser or deleting it, deleting things. You can see if I click like this, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna drag something from above into, so it copied what was up here down there. So you may not want that. And then I'm just going to show you really quick here too. There's a lot of ways to do all this stuff. I'm just going to grab the eraser tool. If you hit the square brackets, the right hand one makes a brush bigger, and I'm just going to delete all this extra goop up here that I kind of messed up when I scanned it all in. And none of this will matter when we export it in the end. But so you can go ahead and clean up all your layers, and you just want to go in and clean them. The last thing I would do would be to show you how to adjust contrast. So again, if we go back to layer one, I might want this layer to be a little bit darker, right? So as long as I have the layer selected, I can come up here to image, and I can go to where it says like auto contrast, and I can punch one of those buttons, or I can hit adjustments, and I could go to brightness and contrast, and I can go in here and like crank up the brightness or contrast on that, and that'll end up making this, you know, much like if I wanted a flat black, I can do it that way. So I can go in there and I can like make changes to all of these layers if I decide to. And so you want to go in and go through all of your layers and clean them up and make them really precise. And then you'll be ready to export this as an animated GIF. So I'll show you that step next. Okay, so now that we have gone in and we have changed all of our different files here, all the layers, so we've got them all cleaned up and we deleted all the junk that was extra and we just got it all fixed up. Now we're going to want to go in and do a few more things before we turn this into an animation. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go ahead and just go in here and go up to where it says image size, and we're going to want to make sure that we have this set to the correct image size. So right now it's set at 480 pixels. We would want that to be more like probably 2000 pixels at its height, and make sure it's at 72 pixels per inch, and just click OK. That'll convert the whole thing. Yours will be bigger. It all kind of depends on how big or small you scan everything in. But go ahead and make sure that you go up here and go image size and change that. And so once we've done that, then the only other thing that we really need to do is we're going to want to go in here and just change the blending mode, it is called, on all of these, because we have this white background behind all of it. So we've got the white background. We want to get rid of that. And the coolest thing about Photoshop is it has a couple different tools that let you do that. So you just want to go in, and I always just shift click everything. So just click the top one and then scroll down and hold shift and click the bottom one, and then go where it says normal here, and this is your blending mode. And there's a lot of different things that the blending modes do, but if you go to the one that says multiply, it will basically delete white pixels. So now we've gotten rid of all of the white pixels that are in our image. Looks like it actually didn't work. It only worked on a few. So we might have to go in there and fix that on a couple other ones. But you can kind of scroll through and check if you want to, and make sure that they're all set to be set to multiply, and that'll just get rid of white pixels, and that'll help us kind of clear this whole thing out so that we don't have a whole bunch of like just kind of stray white pixels that are floating around and causing trouble for us. So we just want to go in there and do that to everything. Once we've done that, we should be able to go in and move to the next step. So I'll do that and I'll come back. Okay, so we've gone in and we've changed all of our layers to multiply, and so that'll get rid of the white pixels. When they kind of lay over the top of each other, you can see how these layers all look like they're flowing together.